Ever wonder what happens after that vial of blood leaves your arm? Like when they take your blood for tests?
Mm-hmm.
Or, those samples they take. How
Yeah.
do those get turned into, life-saving diagnoses and stuff?
Right.
Today, we're going to go behind the scenes
Mhm.
of a place that most people never see,
Yeah.
medical laboratory technology.
It's a pretty fascinating world.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people realize what all goes into it.
That's kind of overlooked, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
We should give a big thanks to London Heartbeats Academy, UK, for
Yes.
giving us the material for this.
Yeah.
We're going to be using their presentation on medical laboratory technology,
Okay.
MLT for short.
Yeah, it's really a great presentation, like a good in the intro to the field.
Mm-hmm.
Explains how medical labs work,
Yeah.
what kind of tests that they do,
Right.
and, really emphasizes the importance of
Yeah.
their role in healthcare.
It really does. So
Yes.
jumping right in, the presentation defines a medical laboratory as the place where all the magic happens,
Uh-huh.
where they analyze patient samples to get a detailed picture of their health.
Right, right.
It's like a detective agency for the body.
I like that.
Instead of looking for fingerprints,
Yeah.
they're looking at, blood cells, DNA, all that stuff.
Exactly.
So cool.
Yeah. And medical laboratory technology
Right.
that refers to the tools and the techniques that they
Mhm.
use to, conduct these investigations.
Right.
It's a lot of science and technology, but also just like
Mhm.
careful attention to detail.
Yeah. So it's not just running tests.
No.
It's like understanding what they mean,
Yes,
how they connect to treating diseases,
exactly.
diagnosing them.
And it's broken down really well in this presentation.
Yeah.
All the different units in a typical diagnostic lab,
Okay.
hematology, microbiology, toxicology, all that.
So many different units.
Each one has its own specialty, but they all have to work together.
Right.
Like a well-coordinated orchestra
Interesting.
to get a complete picture of the patient's health.
Wow. It's like a city within a hospital.
Kind of, yeah.
Each department is specializing in a different aspect.
Right.
So like microbiology might be identifying bacteria,
Mm-hmm.
while biochemistry is analyzing like blood sugar levels.
Right, right.
And hematology is counting blood cells.
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating is even though they have their own focus,
Yeah.
they're constantly sharing information, collaborating.
Interesting.
A diagnosis might require input from multiple departments,
Right.
which really highlights how everything's connected.
Yeah, it's all interconnected. I noticed that when I was reading through this.
Yeah.
It's like solving a puzzle, all the pieces fit together.
Uh-huh.
And there are so many tests.
I know. It's crazy.
It's easy to just take them for granted.
Yeah.
But each one is like, a complex process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So many steps and procedures.
Wow.
And the people doing those tests,
Right.
they're highly trained.
Yeah.
Each one with their own expertise.
The presentation talks about a whole range of professionals.
Yes.
From pathologists who oversee everything
Right?
to the phlebotomists who are drawing the blood.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the medical laboratory technicians.
Yes, those are the ones running a lot of the tests.
So many people involved.
And the level of education required for these roles, well, it varies
Mhm.
depending on, how complex the tasks are.
Right.
You might have technicians with a bachelor's degree who are doing like routine blood tests.
Right.
But then you have researchers with PhDs
Oh, wow.
who are developing new diagnostic techniques,
Oh, wow.
doing groundbreaking studies.
It's really a hierarchy
Yeah.
of knowledge and responsibility.
Making sure those tests are done right,
Yeah.
accurate and precise.
Speaking of tests,
Yeah.
they make a distinction between simple and advanced tests.
Right.
What makes a test advanced?
Well, think of it this way. Simple tests are like measuring hemoglobin concentration
Okay.
to check for anemia. They might just use basic tools,
Uh-huh.
like a microscope,
Okay.
or readily available reagents.
Okay.
They're often less expensive and can be performed quickly.
So those are like the routine checkups.
Exactly. Advanced tests, those dive deeper.
Okay.
They might use techniques like radioimmunoassay, RIA,
Uh-huh.
or enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, or ELISA,
Right.
to detect really tiny quantities of specific substances.
Wow. So those are the specialized tools that they use.
Yeah, you got it. Like if you need to analyze hormone levels
Okay.
or detect specific genetic mutations, identify viral infections,
Right.
you're going to need an advanced test.
Okay. I'm ready to see the equipment.
Oh, yeah. The presentation takes us on a virtual tour.
Okay.
It's like stepping into a sci-fi movie.
Wow. All the amazing machines.
I know. First up, the microscope,
Oh,
a
yeah.
classic.
Yeah, everyone knows that one.
It lets us see things that are just invisible to the naked eye.
It's used to examine blood cells, right?
Yeah, and identify microorganisms,
Mm-hmm.
analyze tissue samples, all kinds of things.
It's easy to think of it as just a magnifying glass, but
But it's so much more than that.
but the presentation actually points out the difference between the microscope
Right.
and microscopy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The science of using the microscope,
Oh, and interesting.
which involves all sorts of techniques for preparing and examining samples
Right.
to make sure we get the most accurate view.
It's like the difference between having a camera
Yes.
and knowing how to use it
Exactly. You need both the tool and the skill.
to get the best results.
Yep. And just like a photographer might choose different lenses for different subjects,
Right.
microscopists use different techniques and magnification.
Wow, so cool. What's next?
Okay, the incubator.
The incubator. I know what that is, but
Yeah, it sounds simple,
Yeah,
but it's super important.
okay.
It's basically a controlled environment so that microorganisms or cells can grow.
Okay.
It keeps the temperature and humidity just right,
Right.
and even controls the levels of gases sometimes,
Wow.
like carbon dioxide and oxygen,
Okay.
to mimic the conditions inside the human body.
So it's like a little climate-controlled room.
Yeah, exactly, for all those tiny organisms.
That's so cool.
And you have to keep the conditions just right for them to grow.
The presentation mentions 37 degrees Celsius.
Right, normal body temperature, because that's what a lot of those microorganisms thrive at.
Oh, wow.
So by copying the conditions in the body,
Right.
we can study them.
Wow. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how something like temperature can be so important.
Yeah. What about the autoclave?
Okay, that one sounds a little intimidating.
Yeah, a little.
And it's a lab's best friend
Oh,
when it comes to sterilization.
sterilization. Okay.
It uses high-pressure steam
Mm-hmm.
to get rid of bacteria, viruses, fungi, even those spores that are really tough to kill.
So it's like a super pressure cooker
Yes,
to make sure everything is sterile.
exactly. The presentation even gives the specifics.
Oh, okay.
121 degrees Celsius
Okay.
for at least 30 minutes at a pressure of 15 pounds per square inch.
Wow.
That'll make sure all those microorganisms are gone.
Like hitting a reset button for all the equipment.
Exactly. So each experiment starts fresh.
Right.
Sterilization's super important in a medical lab.
Yeah.
We have to make sure everything's free from contamination.
Right.
Protecting the lab personnel and, making sure the test results are accurate.
Now the centrifuge.
Oh, yeah, the centrifuge.
I always thought it was cool how it spins.
It's a workhorse in the lab,
Okay.
used to separate components of a mixture
Okay.
based on their density.
Right.
It spins the sample super fast,
Yeah.
creating a force that pulls the denser components outward,
Okay.
so the lighter ones stay in the center.
It's like a merry-go-round for tiny particles.
Yeah, I like that. And that simple principle of density separation,
Yeah.
it's revolutionized a lot of medical testing,
Wow.
like analyzing blood, isolating DNA, all sorts of things.
I remember reading about how the centrifuge
Yeah.
was used to separate blood components,
Uh-huh.
leading to the discovery of different blood types.
That's right. It was a huge discovery.
Yeah.
And it made blood transfusions possible.
Right.
It saved so many lives. And it's still used today
Wow.
for all sorts of things.
That's so cool. What about the electronic balance?
Okay, maybe not as exciting to look at,
Yeah.
but it's crucial for any lab that needs precise measurements.
Okay.
It measures the mass of chemicals and substances super accurately.
So it's like the lab equivalent of a jeweler's scale.
Exactly. Even tiny discrepancies
Yeah.
can really mess up the results.
Right.
The presentation mentions its use in both microbiology and hematology labs,
Okay.
for preparing culture media,
Right.
creating solutions for blood cell counting.
Wow. Every milligram matters.
Absolutely. That's why the electronic balance is so important.
Now, for a dynamic duo,
Okay.
the hot plate and magnetic stirrer.
Yes, these guys are a staple,
Okay.
used for heating and stirring liquids at the same time.
Oh.
So the hot plate provides the heat,
Right.
and the magnetic stirrer spins a little magnet inside the solution.
Interesting.
So it's like an invisible hand stirring your mixture,
Yeah.
makes sure it's evenly heated and prevents those hot spots.
That's good.
They're often preferred over water baths,
Yeah.
especially in student labs.
Right. Water baths are messy.
Yeah, and they can be dangerous too.
Yeah.
Spills, burns.
Right. So the hot plate and magnetic stirrer are safer.
A lot safer.
Yeah.
And they give you more control.
Now, speaking of safety,
Yes.
the biosafety cabinet.
Now we're talking.
That one sounds serious.
It's all about protecting people
Okay.
and the environment from
Right.
harmful substances. It's basically a ventilated enclosure
Mm-hmm.
with a HEPA filter that traps particles
Okay.
so they don't escape.
Like a mini lab within the lab.
Yeah, you could say that.
Providing extra protection.
Right. And the presentation talks about different levels of biocontainment,
Oh, okay.
depending on how dangerous the materials are.
So a lab working with really contagious viruses
Uh-huh.
would need a higher level
Exactly.
than one analyzing blood samples.
Right. The level determines the features of the cabinet,
Right.
the airflow, the filters, that sort of thing.
They put so much thought into safety.
Essential.
Next up, the wax bath and the automatic tissue processor.
These are key tools in histopathology,
Okay.
which is all about examining tissues under a microscope
Right.
to diagnose diseases.
The wax bath.
That's used to embed tissue samples in paraffin wax.
Okay.
So you can slice them into thin sections
Right.
for the microscope.
So it's like a tiny wax sculpture
I like that.
of the tissue sample.
Yep. And the automatic tissue processor prepares those samples.
Oh, okay.
Takes them through dehydration, clearing, infiltration.
So they're preserved and ready for sectioning.
Exactly. It's like an assembly line for tissue preparation.
Modern labs are so
It
automated.
really streamlines things.
Yeah.
And makes things more accurate, too.
What about the spectrophotometer?
Okay, that's a cool one.
Yeah.
It measures how much a substance absorbs light.
Okay.
Different substances absorb light at different wavelengths. So
Right.
by shining light through a sample, we can identify and measure the substances.
So you can tell what's in the sample.
Exactly. And the presentation talks about how it's used in all sorts of areas.
Like
Biochemistry for analyzing blood sugar,
Okay.
and microbiology for determining bacterial counts.
Wow. One instrument can do all that.
That's the beauty of it.
That's so cool. What's next?
Okay, the tube roller mixer.
That sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's used to mix blood samples
Okay.
before they're analyzed.
Yeah. Before analysis.
It gently rotates the tubes so the blood cells are evenly distributed
Right.
and don't clot.
Okay.
It's often used by reception staff, too,
Oh, right.
right when the sample is collected.
To prevent clotting.
Yep, super important.
What about the hematology analyzer?
Oh, the CBC analyzer?
The CBC analyzer, right?
That's the one that gives you that detailed report with
Yeah.
all those numbers and abbreviations.
Counts and identifies all the different blood cells, right?
Yep, and it does it super fast.
Yep.
And accurately.
It's amazing.
It's really revolutionized hematology.
The presentation mentions Wallace H. Coulter.
Oh, yeah, he developed the first automated cell counter
Oh, wow.
back in the 1950s.
It was a game changer.
Completely changed the game.
The CBC report tells you so much.
I know, it's like a health report for your blood.
Wow. What about the Mini Vitas?
Okay, the Mini Vitas is known for being simple and reliable,
Okay.
and it's used for a variety of tests.
Like what?
Serology, immunochemistry, antigen detection.
Wow, it's so automated.
It is. It does all the pipetting, incubating, washing, even reading and printing the results.
No human intervention.
It's a true walkaway system.
What's the VTech 2 system?
The VTech 2 is designed for microbiology labs.
Okay.
It identifies bacteria and yeast really quickly
Okay.
and tells you which antibiotics they're susceptible to.
Oh, so doctors can prescribe the right antibiotic.
Exactly, the most effective one.
And it goes beyond identification.
Yeah, it helps us understand antibiotic resistance.
Wow. So it's a weapon in the fight against infections.
It is.
Now, gel electrophoresis.
Ah, that's a classic.
I remember it from biology class.
Used to separate DNA, RNA, or proteins
Right.
based on size and charge.
Okay.
You run an electric current through a gel,
Right.
and the molecules move at different speeds.
Okay, so it's like a race
Yes.
through a gel obstacle course.
I like that analogy. And the pattern of bands that you get, that lets you identify the molecules
It's like a fingerprint.
for DNA.
Wow. Okay, what about PCR?
PCR is like a molecular photocopier.
Okay.
Makes millions of copies of a DNA segment.
Wow. You can amplify DNA?
You can, even from tiny amounts.
It's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
And making millions of copies.
Exactly. And PCR has revolutionized so many fields.
Like forensics.
Forensics, medical diagnostics.
Wow.
Anywhere you need to analyze DNA. The presentation talks about different types, too.
Oh, okay.
Real-time PCR, nested PCR, all kinds.
A whole family of techniques.
Each one with its own use.
So cool. What's ELISA?
ELISA stands for enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay,
Okay.
another versatile technique. Detecting and measuring specific proteins, antibodies, hormones.
The presentation talks about the binding between antibodies and antigens.
Right, like a lock and key.
Only the right key can open the lock.
Exactly. Antibodies are like those specific probes
I see.
that bind to their targets.
And there are different types of ELISA, too.
There are 4 main types.
Okay.
Direct, indirect, sandwich, and competitive.
Oh, wow.
You can tailor it to your needs.
That's so cool. Two more analyzers.
Okay.
The Roche-Cobas 6000
Yes.
and the Biolyzer 200.
These are both high-tech systems,
Yep.
analyzing all sorts of biochemical parameters
Okay.
in blood and body fluids.
What's the difference?
Well, the Roche-Cobas 6000
Yeah.
uses a few different techniques,
Okay.
including electrochemiluminescence, immunoassay, ion-selective electrode potentiometry, and absorbance photometry.
Wow, that sounds complicated.
It is, but the basic idea is to measure substances
Okay.
by detecting light emitted or absorbed during chemical reactions.
Right.
And the Biolyzer 200
Yes.
relies on turbidensitometry,
Turbidensitometry.
which measures how cloudy a solution is.
Oh, interesting.
The cloudier it is,
Yeah.
the higher the concentration of the substance.
I see. So
Yeah.
different principles, same results.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. From high-tech machines to familiar tools.
Okay.
Petri dish, conical flask, test tube rack, and Bunsen burner.
The classics.
You see them in every lab.
They are.
Even with all the new technology, these are still important.
Absolutely essential.
So basic.
They're used for so many things.
Right. From preparing solutions
Yeah.
to culturing microorganisms.
It reminds you that even the most advanced science
Right.
often relies on these simple tools.
What about capillary tubes, syringes, forceps, graduated cylinders, loops?
More specialized tools.
Yeah.
Capillary tubes are for small blood samples. Syringes are for injecting or withdrawing fluids. Forceps are for grabbing small things.
Right.
Graduated cylinders measure liquids. And loops are for transferring microorganisms.
It's a toolkit for the microscopic world.
Exactly.
Each tool has its own purpose.
So many tools, so many techniques.
Yeah.
Safety is so important.
Yeah, the presentation talks about that a lot.
Yeah, a lab can be a dangerous place.
Right?
You're working with hazardous stuff,
Yeah.
so you got to follow the rules.
First up, safety glasses.
Always.
It says even prescription glasses aren't enough.
Nope, safety glasses are specially designed
Okay.
to protect from splashes, projectiles.
Makes sense.
They give you much better protection.
And no eating, drinking, or putting on makeup.
Right. You don't want to contaminate anything.
Yeah.
Or accidentally ingest something dangerous.
That's scary. What about gloves?
Gloves are essential when you're handling hazardous substances.
Yeah, like blood.
Exactly. They protect your skin.
And there are different types of gloves.
Oh, yeah. You got to choose the right one,
Okay.
depending on what you're working with.
What about clothes?
Closed-toe shoes, tied-back hair
Right.
to prevent accidents.
Yeah, open-toed shoes would be bad.
And loose hair can be a hazard, too.
Also, no electronic devices.
Right. You need to be able to hear what's going on.
Alarms, warnings.
And you don't want to be distracted.
It's like driving.
Yeah, you got to stay focused.
So important to keep the work area clean
Absolutely.
and label all the chemicals.
Everything needs to be organized.
Yeah.
So you know what you're working with.
And never work alone
Always have a buddy.
in case something happens.
Exactly. They can help you.
They also talk about handling contaminated gloves
Right.
and hand washing.
Super important to prevent the spread of contamination.
And of course, no smoking.
Absolutely not.
So many rules
But they're all there for a reason.
to keep everyone safe.
Exactly. Safety first.
Wow, we covered a lot in this first part.
I know. We talked about all sorts of tools and techniques.
And lab safety is so important.
It really is.
If you're enjoying this deep dive into the world of medical laboratory technology,
Yes.
be sure to subscribe to our channels.
On Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube.
You won't miss out on any future explorations.
We've got a lot more exciting topics to cover.
So stay tuned.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome back to our deep dive into medical laboratory technology.
Glad to be back.
I'm still amazed by all the tools and techniques
Me too.
we talked about in the first part.
There's so much to it.
So complex.
It's really amazing how the human body works.
Yeah.
And the scientists and engineers who develop all these technologies,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
mind-blowing.
Let's shift our focus to the tests
Okay.
they do in the different lab units.
Sounds good.
The presentation has a really good overview
It does.
of these tests
Uh-huh.
and their role in diagnosis and treatment.
Yeah, let's start with hematology,
Okay, hematology.
which is all about blood.
Blood, right?
One of the most common tests is the CBC.
The CBC, the complete blood count.
Right, it gives doctors a snapshot of your overall health.
Okay.
Information about red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets.
It tells you so much.
And the CBC analyzer we talked about
Yeah.
makes it so fast and efficient.
Yeah.
It counts the different types of blood cells.
Measures their size and shape.
Wow.
Even detects abnormalities.
So it can see all those tiny cells?
Millions of them.
That's incredible.
And the results can indicate all sorts of things.
Like,
anemia, infections, leukemia.
wow, so much information from a single drop of blood.
It's pretty amazing.
Now, microbiology.
Okay, microbiology.
That deals with all the microorganisms.
The tiny creatures that cause infections.
Right. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites.
All those guys.
The presentation talks about culturing, staining, and microscopy.
Right. Culturing is growing the microorganism in a controlled environment.
Like a petri dish.
Yeah. To identify them based on their growth patterns.
So you're creating a little garden for bacteria.
I like
that. Staining.
Staining uses dyes
Okay.
to highlight specific parts of the microorganisms.
Oh, okay.
So you can see them better under the microscope.
Like adding color to a black and white photo.
Exactly. You can see details you couldn't see before.
Wow.
And microscopy. It lets you see those tiny organisms in detail.
It's like a whole other world.
It is.
All those tiny organisms living their lives.
It's fascinating.
You need to understand them.
Yeah.
To diagnose and treat infections.
Absolutely.
The presentation also talks about testing their susceptibility to antibiotics.
Right, to find the most effective antibiotic.
So patients get the right treatment.
Exactly, and it helps prevent antibiotic resistance.
That's so important.
It really is.
It shows how all the lab units are connected.
They have to work together.
Microbiology identifies the bacteria, but biochemistry analyzes the antibiotic levels.
Right, to make sure the dosage is correct.
It's a team effort.
It is.
Solving the puzzle of the patient's health.
Exactly.
Now, biochemistry focuses on the chemical processes happening inside our bodies.
It analyzes all sorts of substances. Glucose, electrolytes, enzymes, hormones.
In the blood and other fluids.
Right.
It's like chemical inventory.
I like that. Checking all the levels.
To make sure everything's in balance.
And if it's not balanced,
then that could be a sign of a problem.
Right. High blood glucose could be diabetes. Elevated liver enzymes could mean liver damage.
Exactly. Those chemical messengers can tell us a lot.
What about immunology?
Immunology focuses on the immune system.
The immune system, okay.
It tests for antibodies.
Okay.
And other immune system components.
To diagnose autoimmune diseases?
Yes.
Allergies? Immune deficiencies?
So like assessing your body's defense system.
Right.
Making sure it's working properly.
To fight off infections.
Exactly.
The tests are getting more and more sophisticated.
They are.
Detecting subtle changes.
That could be early signs of disease.
It's like a security system for your body.
I like that analogy.
What about histopathology?
We talked about that a little.
Yeah, with the wax bath.
And the tissue processor?
Right.
It involves looking at tissues under a microscope.
Okay.
To diagnose diseases.
You take a biopsy.
A small tissue sample.
Right.
And prepare it for examination.
It's important to preserve it properly.
Absolutely, for accurate results.
It's a very meticulous process.
It is.
Fixing the tissue, embedding it in wax, slicing it into thin sections.
And staining it.
So much work.
But it's worth it.
It's like creating a work of art.
I love that.
Revealing the beauty of the human body.
It's true.
But on a microscopic level.
And the information you get is crucial for diagnosis.
Cancers, infections, autoimmune diseases.
So many things.
It's amazing.
What about cytology?
Cytology, okay.
That looks at individual cells, not tissues.
Right.
It examines cells from body fluids or scrapings.
Like a pap smear.
Exactly, a classic example.
It's a screen for cervical cancer.
Right. It's like taking a census of your cells.
Looking for any troublemakers.
Exactly, and it's a valuable tool for early detection.
So much information from tiny cells.
It's incredible.
It's amazing how complex everything is.
I know, right?
And how it's all connected.
It's a real team effort.
Yeah, all those specialists.
All working together to help patients.
It all starts in the lab.
With those test results.
Unlocking the mysteries of health and disease.
And the lab professionals, they work so hard behind the scenes.
They're the unsung heroes.
They really are.
Before we move on to the final part,
okay,
let's thank London Heartbeat's Z Academy UK.
Yes, they provided the material for this deep dive.
Their presentation was fantastic.
How informative.
Gave us a great overview.
I learned a lot.
And for all our listeners,
yes,
thank you for joining us.
We hope you're enjoying it.
If you want to stay updated on our future deep dives,
yes,
subscribe to our channels
on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube.
We have lots more to explore.
We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to our final part.
The final part, wow.
Of our deep dive into medical laboratory technology.
It's been a journey.
It's been a journey.
Learning all about the lab.
All the intricate workings.
At all the different tests.
So many tests.
It's amazing.
In this final part.
Yeah.
We're going to shift our focus to the future.
The future, okay.
Of this field.
That sounds good.
Technology is always evolving.
Right.
And MLT is no exception.
No exception.
What about automation?
Automation.
We've seen those automated analyzers.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing.
Streamlining so many tasks.
Yeah.
Blood cell counting, bacterial identification.
They're changing the game.
Is this trend going to continue? Automation is like...
It's a key driver of innovation in the lab.
Making things more efficient.
Yeah.
Reducing errors.
Human error is a big one.
Yeah.
And those turnaround times.
Getting faster all the time.
Much faster.
So are human lab technicians becoming obsolete?
Not at all.
Okay.
Automation might be streamlining things, but you still need human expertise to interpret the results, troubleshoot any problems, and make sure the testing's done right.
Quality and accuracy?
Absolutely.
It's like having a pilot on an airplane.
I like that.
Even with autopilot.
You still need someone to oversee everything.
In case something unexpected happens.
Exactly.
So the role of the lab technician is changing.
It's evolving.
It's becoming more specialized.
Okay, so what are they specializing in?
Things like molecular diagnostics.
Molecular diagnostics.
Genetics.
Personalized medicine.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
It is.
New challenges.
New opportunities.
Yeah. What are some of the trends shaping the future of MLT?
Well, one big one is personalized medicine.
Personalized medicine.
It tailors treatment to the individual. Based on their genetic makeup.
Wow.
So you need sophisticated tests.
Right.
To analyze genes, proteins, biomarkers.
It's like a custom-made treatment plan.
Exactly, for each person.
Based on their own blueprint.
It's amazing.
And MLT is at the forefront of this.
It's providing the tools and technologies.
To make it happen.
It's an exciting time.
What about artificial intelligence? Is that impacting MLT?
Definitely. It can analyze huge amounts of data, identify patterns, and help with diagnosis, for example. It can analyze images of cells to detect cancer or other abnormalities.
It's like a digital assistant. It can see things we might miss.
It's true.
AI is also being used to develop new tools and personalized treatments.
It's changing everything.
So the future of MLT is looking pretty bright.
It is.
But are there any ethical considerations
absolutely.
with all this technology?
One big concern is patient privacy.
Patient privacy, right.
We're gathering so much data.
Yeah.
We have to protect it.
Make sure it's used responsibly.
Absolutely.
It's a balance between using the data and protecting privacy.
It's a tough one.
What else?
Well, there's also the potential for bias in algorithms.
Bias.
If the AI systems are trained on biased data, they could perpetuate health disparities.
That's a problem.
It's a big problem.
We need to make sure these AI systems are fair.
For everyone.
Equitable. Accurate.
Unbiased.
For all patients.
It's essential.
So as MLT keeps evolving,
yeah,
we need to keep having these conversations
about the ethics
of using this technology.
It's so important.
We've successfully navigated this deep dive.
I think we did it.
Into the world of medical laboratory technology.
It's been a fascinating journey.
I've learned so much.
Me too.
A whole new appreciation.
For all the work that goes on behind the scenes.
It's a hidden world.
But it's so essential.
For diagnosing, treating, preventing diseases.
It's true.
And as technology advances, MLT will be even more critical.
In shaping the future of healthcare.
Let's thank London Heartbeats Academy UK.
Yes, they provided the source material.
For this deep dive.
Their presentation was amazing.
So informative.
Gave us a great overview.
And to all our listeners.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed it.
If you want more deep dives
into fascinating topics,
subscribe to our channels.
Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube.
We're always looking for new things to explore.
Always.
So stay curious.
And keep learning.
Until next time.
Bye, everyone.